I mean, it's pretty consistent all the way through. That is one thing that I can give these Artist Loft markers. It is consistent. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Is It Worth It, where I go around the world and the internet looking for supplies to make your job just a little bit easier or make the experience just this much more pleasurable. And today we're actually going to be going with a suggestion from one of the viewers. They wanted us to review the Artist Loft markers from Michaels. And so it is Michaels' brand of marker to, I guess, help offset the cost for some markers. But what I realized when I bought these is that these 6 markers are $20. So we're gonna see if they're worth it, because that's a pretty hefty price tag. So come on, let's go check it out. All right, so once again, we have a container that is just, plastic container. Nothing really special, just enough to hold it together. And you can see the markers, which is cool. And there's nothing really on the back like some of the Five Below ones where they had like artist prompts. It just tells you, artist quality alcohol-based ink markers, features dual tips, flexible brush nib, capable of smooth, thick, thin lines, and blendable, quick drying, and easy flowing ink. So it's all the things that you kind of want. So let's see. So the marker themselves, it's got a nice feel to it, right? It doesn't feel too plasticky, which is great. It's got a nice feel in it in your hands. It's a nice length. It's not too big, it's not too long. So this feels really nice. Like the marker itself feels really nice. It's at a triangular shape, so it's supposed to help with rolling, but because it's still round-ish, right? It'll still roll. But eventually it's supposed to lie flat, so you don't have to worry about it rolling around. Now granted, if it's here, it's not gonna roll off your page, which I think is the idea behind the design. So there is a little bit of that. The chisel itself, right? The chisel itself looks pretty good. It looks like it has a nice tip to it, so it'd be nice. Oh, it's got a nice snap. So that's good. Then the brush looks, it's a thick brush, so it should give you a lot of variety in the line quality. So, and it looks good. It looks like there's nothing fraying on there, so that's nice. Both sides have a nice snap. All right, let's see if they connect. Oh, not really. Oh, that's sad. Like it goes on there, but falls right back off. Let's see if it's the same with the other one. Yeah, okay, so the cap itself, like, while it does actually go onto the back, it just falls right off. See? So that's kind of a bummer. Like, they had the design, it's already there, like it's ready to go on top, but then it just falls right off. So that's a missed opportunity there. All right, let's see how these things work. All right. So we're gonna just go ahead and start with this red. See what happens. All right, well, the ink flows. Wow, I was very surprised. The ink flows really nice, really nice out of these markers. So what I'm realizing though is that when you first touch down, right, like if you're making fast marks, right, like you're trying to do some feathering, at the very beginning it lets out a ton of ink, and then it just fades as it goes through because you will move faster than the ink flows out of the brush. But it seems that if you do slower, right, slower feathering, you can get the ink to come all the way through, which is kind of sad if you're really just trying to do some nice feathering. You have to worry about it actually fading out. Now that could be a technique that you actually want to use. So that might be cool, you know, if that's something you're trying to do, is to make it fade out into the light. So, you know, it has its benefits, I'm sure. I mean, the chisel flows really, really nice. Like the ink just comes out, it goes on very, very evenly, right? It's very nice. The color itself is a little different, like, because you can see, right, that color is not that color, right? That color is way lighter than the color that's coming out. This one's pretty much on point, so you can look at this one and go, all right, that's the color I'm going to get out of that. But this one's definitely a lot darker. Now I know you can just do, you know, sheets and stuff like that, or test pages and whatnot, and it'll be fine. But it is nice to know that when you look at something, it's relatively the right color. Now, one thing that I've noticed between the light one and the dark one, the dark ink flows all the way through, no matter how fast you do it. Right now, if you do push down a lot, it will release a lot of ink, but I'm just saying, like, just coming through like this, it's all pretty uniform as far as what the color is. So maybe it's just a lighter issue, like as you have lighter markers, it actually fades as you go out with the brush. The brush themselves, it feels very firm, but it has a lot of give to it, right? So you can actually come in and do really thin lines, right? If you start holding it in different positions, you can do really, really thin lines, but it has enough rigidity to it that it feels firm. So it's not like your brush is just, you know, flopping wherever it wants to. So you can have a lot of control when it comes to these brushes. So that's really nice. All right, let's try this yellow. Let's see what we got there. These work. I mean, I can't get over the actual, you know, flow of the chisel tip. If they made these in a brush, or not a brush, but a ballpoint and the chisel, I think I'd be all over these markers. I mean, the ink flow on that is just fantastic. You know, as you all know, for those of you who've been watching the channel, you know I'm not a brush person. So I'm always looking for like the bullet point or the bullet tip and the chisel. And if Artist Loft makes that's gonna be nice. So, all right, coming back to the brush, as you can see, or maybe you can't, but the lighter colors, and even though this is marigold, it's not necessarily a yellow, and the color does match, so that's good. But at the beginning of that stroke, it's really dark in comparison to the two, so it's definitely, it seems to be pretty consistent with all the lighter colors. Like it releases a lot of ink at the beginning, and then it just can't keep up with as you're moving it, and it becomes lighter. So that's definitely something you'd have to keep in mind when you're using the brush. And look at that. That coverage is great. It's really fast, very even. But the issue with the light to dark thing is still an issue. But as you can see, the darker ones, it doesn't really do that unless you press really hard to make that ink flow. So if you're trying to do just, you know, quick feathering or, you know, like hair, something like that, the ink stays pretty consistent the whole way through when it's darker than when it's lighter. The two lighter ones definitely have a significant fading when you go from one to the other, so definitely something to keep in mind. What I'm noticing here with this is that the chisel puts the color out darker than what the brush does, unless you're pushing really, really hard to get that color down. But on first pass, you know, like you do a first pass, once this dries, it becomes lighter. Unlike this dark red where it just all stays the same. It's a little thing that you might need to consider when working with these, but it doesn't seem like it would be a deterrent. Yeah, chisel, man. I'm gonna have to look to see if there's a bullet, because I mean, that's pretty nice. I mean, and the brush, you know, if you're a brush person, this brush is actually really nice. Flexible enough and yet firm enough to give you the control you need. Thin lines, thick lines, goes from thick to thin. So, right, but it does, the brush, except for this red one, the brush color seems to dry a lot lighter than what the chisel will put out, unless of course you go over it or you push really hard to get that color down. But then when you do that, it fades, right? So if you're putting a lot of pressure down to make the ink come out and make it look like the chiseled color, it fades as it goes away. But if you're using it to make quick lines and stuff like that, it works just fine, and it you know, comes together and it dries the same color. And then pink. I mean, it's pretty consistent all the way through. That is one thing that I can give these Artist Loft markers. It is consistent, right? So those colors, the brush, the chisel, everything is pretty much the same. So these, I mean, they're really nice. You just gotta watch, right? You gotta watch the fact that the lighter colors do give you that big glob of ink as it first starts, and then as it goes on, it just fades out naturally. And then once it dries, you can really see how it fades, right? So it's definitely something to keep in mind. We're gonna try this. I'm gonna use the chisel, mostly because that's what I do. But I'm gonna use the chisel to see how the blend is gonna work. Okay, so we're gonna pink, rose red, just lighter red, and put it right next to it. With the darker red. Now this is going to be a huge jump, I know, but I'm going to see how they interact with each other. Try and get that ink in there, right? And then we're just going to come over the whole thing with the lighter color to see if we can't blend them together. So while that's drying, and we'll check that out later, I'm gonna come do our test. So this is dead, apparently. Okay, so not that one. That micron did not want to work. So we're gonna try this one. Okay, so it's a micron, and then Staedtler. Right, we'll do Staedtler. And then, what else do we have? We got Faber-Castell. Then we're going to do touch. And then, you know what? I'm going to switch over to this Tombow. All right, we're going to try that one out. All right, as usual, we're going to use some of the lighter colors because that's generally what affects it the most, but we got some nice range here, so we're just going to coat that on. Oops, real quick. Do this pink. Carmine red. And then we're going to do this iris color. That was a dark one. All right, so now we're gonna come back to this blend here. So, I mean, I gotta say, when the colors are when the colors are closer together, right? That's a nice blend, right? Like, we knew that this was gonna be one gigantic jump, so this didn't really blend as well. But from here to here, right? So that pink to the rose red, Look at that. That's a nice blend, and that's with a with the chisel tip. So I think that if you go off and buy the more colors, that you will actually be able to get a really nice blend with these markers. So that's really nice. All right, let's see how it's affecting any of the markers. I mean the pens. Micron's a little bleedy, but not really. I mean, it's got a little smear, but you got to really look for it. The Faber-Castell was affected pretty strongly, like it smears with the yellow, and the touch liner also smears. So it looks, and it's kind of consistent the whole way through. So if you were going to use from the liners that I've used, if you were going to use those liners and these markers, the thing that you would want to stay away from to avoid bleeding is Faber-Castell and touch liners. The Tombow pen and Staedtler and Micron all have either little or no bleed. So I think that, you know what, these are pretty good. All right, so we just got done reviewing the Artist Loft Michaels version of alcohol markers, and you know what? I came into this going, that price tag's pretty high for 6 markers. You know, it's like $20. Michaels doesn't really give the 40% off very often. It's generally the 20% off. So it's like $16 for 6 markers. I'm like, especially when you can go to like Five Below or a Hoo or a Daxi, and you can really get some other markers for less. But in the end, after using them, these are really good. I'm I'm really surprised. The quality was really good. The inks were really good. It flowed well. The brushwork, I was like, I'm not a brush guy, so I can't really give you the finer details of the brush, but it seemed nice. It was firm enough, but still gave me enough flexibility to do things. So I think that was really good. I am going to go and start looking to see if they have a bullet tip and the chisel, and I would love to see how that works, if it's different. But you know what? If you haven't given these a try yet at Michaels, the Artist Loft dual tip alcohol-based markers, you should, because as much as I thought it wasn't going to be, these are definitely worth it. Go check these out. Well, that wraps up today's episode, and I hope that you learned something from it, or you got something valuable from this video. If you did, please go ahead and hit the like and share button so that other people can experience this as well. And as I mentioned earlier, this was a suggestion from one of the viewers, and as you can see, if you suggest it, I will put it on the list and make sure that it gets reviewed. So if you have a product that you would like me to review, go ahead and put it in the comments below, and I will put it on the list and we will get to reviewing it. If you are new to the channel, first off, welcome. And second, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified. If you hit the bell, you can get notified every time I upload new content, and new content is coming. All right, so thank you guys so very, very much, and I will see you at the next episode.